Okay, here we go. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much and welcome. Today is one of our first Envision Conversations where we're talking about all things business, marketing, networking, partnerships. And the idea is that I get to spend some time with ambitious, generous business executives like yourself. I'm Bridget Murphy. I'm founder and president of Envision Promotions, a partner marketing agency. We are like a dating service for large corporations, and the whole goal is audience expansion, sales amplification, elevated credibility, all through partnerships. And I am so excited to be talking to my friend Tena Crock today, founder of TC Rock Consulting, providing fractional leadership and D2C growth assessments in the areas of strategy, resources, tech and team, execution, performance, and customer experience. Tena, you are an entrepreneur, wife, mom, animal lover, and one of my favorite business friends. So thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be joining you. I feel super unnatural on camera. So
you and me both.
So I hope that
I have
this
to say
is an awesome conversation.
Yeah, me too. Well, it already is. I mean, I love spending time with you. I do want to say this. I was doing some research about when we started working together and a couple of things. One, in your LinkedIn profile, in your header, like right at the very beginning, at the end of your description of who you are, you say, "How can I help?" And that sums you up. I mean, Tena, you are so generous
with your
time, and you've always been fabulous. I think that's one of the reasons why you and I are still talking after. I mean, it's almost been a decade of working since we started working together, right?
Let's not talk about time because that means a lot of things. But yes, it has almost been a decade, which is crazy.
But I remember working with you so fondly.
Me too.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you a little bit. You and I met when it was vice president of marketing at Step 2, correct?
That's right.
You want to share just a little bit about your time there and what you did?
Sure. So I actually joined Step 2, my gosh, in 2009. I started as the head of e-commerce and digital marketing. I was just focused on step2.com. Direct to consumer was becoming a hot topic at that point in time. A lot of brands were actually shying away from selling direct to consumer. And when I came into the organization, I was kind of in hostile territory because people were like, our sales team was like, no, the sales need to come through Toys R Us and Target and Walmart. And, so it was an interesting time to join. I often say that one of my superpowers is that I feel like I'm pretty disarming pretty quickly, but that was one of my tougher roles to start into. So over time, my role there morphed into, I was still oversaw the P&L for our direct-to-consumer step2.com. But I also became more of a consulting role for our .com relationships with our retail partnerships as well. So we came to this point where we determined that we would rather be retailer agnostic. We didn't care where somebody purchased from as long as they were purchasing Step 2 products and we weren't losing them to the competition. So I was there through 2017. I formally resigned in 2016, but ended up hanging on till May of 2017, which is.
I remember that the CEO did not want you to leave. I remember that very well.
It was a long process of getting out. And I also I'm not somebody that ends relationships. I just continue collecting friends and people, and I which is weird, but I ended up leaving because my son was going into kindergarten. And I knew that I wanted to do some sort of consulting. So during my time there, however, gosh, I think it was maybe 2015 or 2016 that you and I started working together. Does that sound right? 2014?
I did some research, Tena, and I actually went through a bunch of emails. I mean, for one, I forgot how many cool programs you put together. We had talked to, it spans the gamut, but yeah, I believe our relationship started in 2015 and lasted for a couple of years. But yeah, it was crazy how long ago it was, and also how fresh it comes back to me.
Well, and it's funny too, because yeah, like I think about how the world has changed a bit. And like I know I was beating the drum of authenticity back then, but I still think that there is so much untapped space in what you're doing, because bringing brands together in a way that is like that authentic relationship, like, you know, in a space where you're not competing against the other brand, but you're targeting the same consumer and you're trying to do the same thing. Like we were trying to help moms, right? So in step 2, we were selling toys. I think I remember doing a partnership with Stride Rate. Does that sound right?
Yep. Yep.
And it just made so much sense. You know, we were all targeting moms of kids that were of a, you know, younger age range, who were all kind of like on the same struggle bus and all trying to figure out life, and shoes and toys and food, like that all just becomes a part of your everyday life. So it just made so much sense to me when I chatted with you, and I'm like, yes, of course we want to work with someone in this space. And it just, I love, like when you said the dating, like that you're a dating service for brands. I think that makes so much sense. And I really think that like brands are just scratching the surface of what's possible in this space.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're actually noticing how much partner marketing, the term, you know, when we started out was no one really understood it, which is why we sort of coined that dating service, because then people could understand how it came together. And now we're finding that corporations are separating their budgets so they have an actual line item for partner marketing, because they're finding the value of it. But you were like ahead of your time when you were at step 2, because I remember us fighting that battle where you're trying to compete with the big boys like Amazon. And yep. I probably shouldn't be sharing this story, but I remember how if you cut the cost on a step 2 to really drive a new product that you had, you would actually get closed off on some of the big boys.
Totally.
And they wouldn't even promote your product.
Yeah.
And so finding the balance was really tricky.
It was super tricky.
You really did focus a lot. I do remember you being that term about authenticity. Isn't it funny how that word still resonates?
It is. It was like, I remember at the time, like I said, 10 years ago, feeling like when I used it, I almost could have been like using it in buzzword bingo, but now it's like in the zeitgeist, right? Like it's just, I mean, it's here. People get it. I think back then, like they maybe thought that it was cool or trendy or something. But then when you start to look at engagement metrics and you start to look at numbers around how authenticity comes into play, you can't deny it. And I think the harder thing is that it is a longer term play, right? It's not something that you're going to get like an immediate return for. Sometimes you will, sometimes you'll hit gold, and you know, but it's that longer term play. So oftentimes if you're just trying to hit a number, like, and you're starting to talk about authenticity, you've got people whose eyes glaze over and they just, like, you know, they just don't want to hear it. But authenticity, experience, you know, really making a connection. I feel like anything that we're doing in our daily lives, if you put that into your brand, that's really what shines through and cuts through the noise of all the crap that other people are putting out there.
But it's not just cutting through, like not just the brands doing it, it's the people doing it. I remember when we would bring programs to you at step 2 and in the future, it was always, we call it, you know, right fit, but we also call it where it has to be fit not just the brands, but the brands' audiences. And it also has to be in a way where both parties can be generous. And if you're not being authentic, you can't be generous with each other. Otherwise, it's really a force fit.
Exactly.
We have a lot of partners that come to us and they're like, we really want to work with this particular brand. And we're thinking they're not going to be generous. You're not going to get the lift that you want. And it goes back to the authenticity. That's really interesting. It's funny. I was going to ask you a question about how your, you know, role has evolved and how things have changed. And that's interesting because that's really still consistent. But yeah, I think now through partnerships, one of the things that we've done in order for the programs to be more successful out of the gate is we're using data. We are asking a lot more questions. We do surveys around the audiences to make sure that the alignment is fit so that there is that authentic message that you can connect the two together. But how is that affecting you in your current role? Like, how have things evolved for you? Because I know things have changed dramatically.
Yeah, they really have. So when I left step two, I mentioned that I started consulting. I started TC Rock Consulting, which is what my name is under, what my entity is under. But I'm part of a group called Chameleon Collective, and as the name suggests, we're a collective of individuals who have come together to kind of help support one another. I typically serve as an interim leader. I've done interim VP of Ecom, which is basically what I was doing at step two. I've also done interim CMO roles. But what I'm really enjoying right now is coming in and doing these audits and assessments. And, Bridget, I think the thing that's been that's so interesting to me is we all talk about data, right? Like everyone talks about data and its importance. But what I find is that so many people start a program and they don't identify their goals up front. So they don't identify what they're trying to achieve up front. So what ends up happening at the end of the program or the end of the campaign or whatever, they try to make the narrative fit what they believed before they started, right?
Oh my gosh, all the time.
So what's been super interesting for me is when I worked for step two, I was kind of beholden to whatever the top-down leadership strategy was. And by the way, I think I reported to 6 different CEOs during the tenure at step two, which is kind of crazy, right? But it's nice now because I can come in as like this independent resource who has experience, who can tell you what the right numbers are to look at, and then recognizing that humans are human and like that's all going to come into play. So let's establish what our goals are in the beginning. And then when we like come to the end of a program, a campaign, time working together, something that you've wanted to test, let's test that against what our hypothesis was in the beginning. And I can say that in a much different way than I was able to working within the confines of being in the business. This has allowed me the opportunity to work more strategically on the business with a more, I guess I can just like look at things more holistically. It's also allowed me the chance to really focus on what I'm passionate about. When I say authenticity, when I say customer experience, those sort of the human connection side of things, right? So I think the data is so important. I think the metrics are so important. I think that's all really important. But when you don't factor in the people equation, like people into that equation, it kind of doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
No, and that's so you too. You're 100% right. I have so many examples of partnerships where they say that this is your particular KPI that you want to reach, but I don't think they've communicated that effectively to the team. And more importantly, when you're doing a partnership, if we're executing a partnership right, is that KPI measurable with the other partner's execution style?
Yes.
So
right.
Really trying to nail that down ahead of time is so important. And I love how you said that human connection, because we always say when we're doing these kinds of programs and conversations but really with any marketing, if it's not resonating with the consumer, there are fast fixes that you can do. There are programs that you can execute that will move the number, but not long term.
Right. Exactly. One of the things that we did at step two that I think I was most proud of is we developed, and you might remember this, we developed an internal brand ambassador program. This was like before influencers were influencers, right? I think at that time, like they were being referred to as mommy bloggers.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Which they hated. And we actually had a PR agency that was like handling these sort of relationships for us. And there was like 70 people. We were just getting reviews, and we were getting reviews for products that we already had reviews on. And I'm like, guys, like we can do this a lot differently and a lot more effectively. So we shrunk the group down to 10. We hand selected 10. They were not people who had the biggest audiences, but they were the people that had built up quality audiences. Like they were being candid of who they were. They were letting people into their lives. And because of that, their audiences trusted them. So not only were we utilizing them to give us, like to talk about products that we were launching, we also wanted their true, honest, candid feedback on like, how easy was this to assemble? Like, where are people going to struggle when they assemble? So like the real concerns that people are going to have. We wanted ideas from them of like, what do you want to see your kids playing with? Like, you know, of course there were things that we couldn't serve. But it's been so interesting to me to see how like that, like the brand influencer piece has now taken off, and how like, I mean, I swear like every 20 something like has their own platform that they could make money off of now if they wanted to. So that's a space that I'm watching pretty closely, because I feel like we're on the tipping point of that becoming super inauthentic, right?
Yep.
And like oversaturated. So I'm curious to see how that morphs as well into like, I think that again, the brands that are doing it well are connecting with people who already love their brand to begin with. They're not coming to them with an opportunity and just an exchange of money, right?
Yeah, I know, and it's so interesting because in most of the partnerships that we do, there's an element of within influencers, and our recommendation is always engagement. Like they have to have that relationship with their audience where they're truly engaged. That's where the conversion comes from.
Yes.
But so many businesses or corporations are really interested in that reach.
Yes.
And even I would rather get more smaller, engaged influencers.
Yeah.
That again, back to the authenticity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Then the big ones, it's really just all about, you know, you might as well just buy a television ad.
Exactly. Yep.
Put someone famous in it and call it a day, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Same amount of money. So yeah, it's that's something that we wrestle with a pretty regular basis. And I like your comment about you know, we're at this tipping point, because I see it too. I think there's like, it's kind of like, do you remember when we put coupons on everything? Like back in the day, we'd have a coupon on everything, and then it went away, and now it's coming back in the form of a QR code or however it's being executed. There's always going to be a call to action. It's kind of like that. It's cyclical, right? Like you have one series of it, and then everyone wants to go away from it. We don't want to discount anymore, but ultimately it comes back again in a different form. It's kind of like, it reminds me of that. Like we're getting close to where that's going to shift in some way. It'll be fascinating to see how that happens.
So you said this, really seeing coming back with a lot of folks that I'm working with and seeing actually some pretty good results is direct mail.
Right?
Like, who would have thought we were talking about direct mail again? But it's actually pretty inexpensive to do and has a pretty good return.
Right.
What? And then mailboxes are going to get cluttered again, and then emails will have like been not cluttered, and exactly. I don't know, it's just so funny.
Right? It's like everything has its time and comes back again. I mean, aren't we all wearing bell bottoms again in some sense, right? Aren't the body in fashion? Yep. That's so funny.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's old is new again.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about your current role. I know you mentioned that, you know, your title and what you do, but I would love to hear what you love about your job.
Yeah. So, it's funny, when I originally went to consulting, in my brain, I was like, sweet, I'm just going to come in. I'm going to work on strategy. I'm not going to get get involved in get pulled into the weeds. And I've ended up in 2 fractional leadership roles. One lasted 2 years and one lasted 18 months. So much for that.
Of course they did, right?
One was with Singer Sewing Machines, who I loved working with, and they are awesome. And the other was with a company called Embodied, and they make an AI robot that teaches social emotional learning to children. Like, completely different, right? So to answer your question, what do I love about what I'm doing? How cool to have like exposures to like a, 100-year-old brand that's like a household name, and then like this very cool tech startup. It's been that's been a wild experience. I've also worked with I've worked with a Fortune 500 beauty brand. I've worked on an airline. What? Again, so just exposure to things that I would not get exposure to. in addition, like I like the interim leadership roles, ironically, because I do get to make those connections as much as I didn't think that I wanted to be doing that. And I wanted to just look at things from a top level. I love the people. I love getting in and helping to mentor people and get them to the right place in their career, because so many people are not like in the right role. Like it doesn't mean that they're not doing a great job, but so many people aren't in the right role. And this is kind of allowed me to say like, hey, look, you've got a stellar player on your team, but I think that they would be so much better service to the organization and for their own happipiness if they were doing X, Y, or Z for your company. So that's been fun. This assessment piece has been interesting because I really don't get to dig in and make connections with the people. Really, I am just looking kind of like surface level. What I do find is the more people within an organization I talk to, and by asking the right questions, you start to get down to the meat of the real issues. And I think I think we all, and we've all done this on the opposite side, right? Like we all start off surface level as to what our challenges are. And then you dig another layer and another layer and another layer. And then you find out like, hey, there's actually something like more deeply rooted here. And maybe I can help with that and maybe I can't. And I love being able to have the freedom and flexibility to tell people when I can help them and when I can't help them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then make connections of people who possibly can help them, right?
Right.
So that's been wonderful. My husband and I also in 2018 started a yoga and holistic healing center, which sounds like really weird, right?
No, when you told me that you were doing it, it sounded so like you. I was so excited for you. But I keep going. I interrupted.
Yeah, no. So so that's been an interesting thing because we were rocking and rolling and then the pandemic hit and we tried to pivot really quickly to an online forum. It didn't meet the needs of who our customers were. And we tried for dear life. Like we hung on and clawed and really tried to claw our way back. And finally in last summer, actually, like I think the summer of 2022, we kind of knew that things like we needed to call it quits. Or I'm sorry, summer of 21, we knew we needed to call it quits. Summer of 2022, we finally said, okay, like we can't be of service here any longer. But what we could do is there was someone else in the area who wanted to start up something similar. So we've actually over the last couple of years, we've continued helping her when she has a question about accounting or, how to find new teachers or things like that. We've continued to help her with that. But it's been like a huge lesson in humility too, right? Like, I'm like, I could do this. Like I can do anything. Well, guess what? You can't service a business in a pandemic that needs people in a face-to-face environment. Well, it wasn't going to happen. As much as I tried to stronghold force my way into making it work, we couldn't make it work. But that's been good. Like I said, it's been good. Like I feel like my failures have been equally as important as my successes. And when my husband and I went into it, we both went in with the thought process of like, if we do this and it fails, are we going to be more upset than if we didn't do it at all? And we knew that we would be more upset if we didn't do it in the first place. So like since then we've launched our own D2C sites. Like we've tried some drop shipping things. We've tried some working directly with manufacturers. And that's helped me tremendously because I've now built sites from scratch on Shopify, which is kind of crazy. Like I've built branding kits. Like those were things like not my wheelhouse. And I would not offer those services professionally to anybody else at this point. But I've done it. Like I've been in the trenches and done that sort of thing, which just helps me, I think, help businesses in a different way than I was able to previously. It's also much different when you're putting your own money into ad spend and figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
No, it makes a big difference, doesn't it? I love that. And thank you so much for sharing, because I think as working professionals, we're afraid to share when we've failed or when we've run into issues or challenges. Yeah. But to be honest with you, I think we're better at our jobs when we can discuss those. And we learn so much from the mistakes that we've made. It's so funny. I love that you use the word humility. total sidebar. My daughter played hockey for years, right? I've taken her to a million different rinks, and she went when she started college. She asked me if I would be interested in learning to skate so that we could play on this adult women's league together. And I was
Oh,
like, I don't play hockey, but I can now. I grabbed skates, I learned how to skate, and being a competitive individual, someone who prides themselves on kind of knowing how to do a lot of things, it's been the most humbling experience, that hit that word, and that just made me think of it. But it's also been so nice to be the worst. It's been nice
yeah.
to learn how to accept being the worst, and just getting over the fact that I'm going to fall and make huge mistakes and embarrass my daughter. And it's been such a great learning experience for me. So
Well, and it's time that you have with your daughter, that like
right.
quality time that you couldn't. I don't know, like there's so much value in that you'll never regret doing it.
Oh, I'm so grateful for the time, and it's so much fun. Like, I forgot how much fun it is just to play. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it is when you're doing something like that. I'm a very physical person. I love being active to a certain extent, but
Yeah.
I forgot how much I enjoy being physical for fun.
Yeah, that's so
You
true.
know?
That embarrassing story that I had no plans on telling you this, but
I
last year
just told you I started playing hockey, and I'm horrible. So embarrass all you want.
last year my husband got me roller skates for Christmas because
Oh,
I
I
was
love
like,
this.
yes, I'm like, I miss roller skating. I miss roller skating, and I miss like fun dance parties, like not
Yes.
caring, like, and I stopped. I was never a big drinker, but I just don't drink anymore. And the idea of like dancing when I'm not drinking is like really like, what? But I'm like, wait, why not? So like my two favorite things now are to put on my roller skates and like roll around our house, or to dance. Like I do dance parties while I'm making dinner, and I don't care.
We're gonna have a whole separate conversation someday about the not drinking and the dancing thing, because I still drink, but very rarely.
Uh-huh.
And what's interesting, and neither of my kids drink. My daughter is having this huge 21st birthday party in May. She wants to go dancing and she wants to go to a nightclub, but nobody wants to drink.
How
And I'm
cool
like,
is
I'm
that?
in. I'm in.
Oh my gosh.
But I have to call all of my 20-something friends to be like, I don't know where to go. I don't know
Right.
where do we, and will they let me in? Am I going to be allowed in, admitted to some of these nightclubs to dance? But I love that. I love that. And man, I remember roller skating, and just, it's so freeing, and the
Yes.
joy of it.
Yeah.
So wait, do you roller skate around inside your house?
Uh-huh.
How big is your house?
It's not that like it's not big, but we do have an open floor plan, so it makes it easy. And like we've got the same flooring on the entire first floor. So
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Do you make yourself sick just going in the circle, like a teeny little circle?
well, it's funny because I also probably do this because strategically there's something I can grab onto in the event that I'm going to fall. Because let's face it, like at this age, if I go down, I'm probably hurting myself pretty pretty badly. But I actually, a friend of mine, this is so weird too. A friend of mine just texted me earlier in the week. She's like, I had a dream last night that you lived in this posh apartment, and I came and visited you, and then we went roller skating. She's like, I think that's telling us this summer we need to go to a roller rink. And I'm like, yes, that is totally what it's telling us. And my butt is going to be sore for like the next week afterward. I'm already prepared. These skates are great.
Oh my gosh, I love roller rinks. That was like how we would do birthday parties.
Exactly. And these skates my husband got me, like they are this beautiful mint green color, which is like my favorite color from when I was like 12.
What a great husband to know what to get you, that you would just, did you ask for it, or was it a surprise?
I didn't. I think I had said something about going roller skating, and he picked up on it, which was good. Yeah, he's pretty good at stuff like that. So I'll keep it.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that we have covered how a transition from all of our work experiences to our embarrassing moments and
right
trying to do physical activity. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, I I always love talking to you. Like it's
Me
so
too.
much fun. Like I learn
Yeah.
so much whenever we get together and chat. But yeah, I really don't know how to end this except for just to say thank you so much for your time. And I can't wait to continue talking.
Can I toss a question back to you, actually?
Always, always.
Curious if you have any good books, good podcasts, good TV shows, or good movies that you would recommend. Like,
Oh
they
my
don't
gosh.
have to be business related.
So I am a huge reader, as you know, and I just posted. Are you looking for like I call them candy, my candy books, which is for me is
Sure.
mostly sci-fi and
Yeah.
like I love those kinds of books. Or business books, because business books I read and sometimes I have to listen to my business books because I
Yeah.
have to like really digest. But my favorite books, I just finished a really good one and I want to share it with you. Okay, this one's like super weird, but I love this author. But the book is called The Humans by Matt Haig.
Okay. Writing it down.
I loved it. And the premise of the book is that there's a mathematician that teaches at a prestigious college, and he figures out this mathematical equation that humans aren't ready for yet. And so an alien from another universe takes over his body and has to pretend like he's human.
Oh, interesting.
And he has to get rid of any proving of that theory. But
Interesting.
the whole book is about this alien making fun of what it's like being human. I loved it. And I love this author. He wrote another book called The Midnight Library. That's one of my favorite books.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's the whole reason why I read this one in the first place. But The Midnight Library is probably, I would choose that one over The Humans because it's just so well written. And I love it. And then the other one that I'm reading for business is just, I'm back to reading the E-Myth Revisited. I think that's the name of it.
Yeah.
And I haven't read it in a long time. And I hired a coach and she's been amazing. And she recommended that I revisit that book. So I have it and it's great.
But I would love to pick your brain on hiring a coach at some point too. I think
Yes.
that is so interesting too. I think we all need that unbiased person, and top athletes do it. Like why wouldn't top professionals do it?
You know, Tina, it's so funny. I've always wanted to be a member of, some of these large organizations where you work with other entrepreneurs and you grow together. And I've just never been willing to make that time commitment and financial commitment. I always thought, I don't have time and I don't want to spend the money there. And I finally was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm like you. If I want to get better, I need to get a coach to help me. And so I interviewed everybody. And this person was actually not even on my radar and was recommended, but we hit it off immediately. It's like dating, right? Like
totally.
I feel like I can trust her.
Yeah.
And she's been phenomenal. And I plan on having a coach for the foreseeable future. I need it. I need someone to push me. I move a lot faster and a lot more in the right direction when I have someone watching over my shoulder. Don't we all?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. All right.
If you ever give
2 more podcasts, then we're going to.
I was just going to say, and if you ever give this a name, I think it should, I think the theme should be something about like everything important is just like dating, right? Because it's the truth. It's like finding that match for whatever's important to you.
Yes. Yeah. It's so funny. So I've been doing some speaking engagements and I've been jokingly tying everything to a date, bad date, first date, like the worst first date elements. And it really goes back to business. Like it aligns beautifully with what we do, but it can get derailed very quickly. People love telling their worst first date stories and their best first date stories. And sometimes it's TMI, but yeah, I really do think that tying everything back to dating. I really wanted to keep it. We nicknamed our cocktail hours Ambitio, and it's Latin for ambition, because I love talking to people who are always evolving, getting coaches and growing and not being afraid to make mistakes and buying roller skates and roller skating around your house. Those are the kind of people that I like to surround myself with. But I don't think I'm going to keep it that name, but I like something with dating, but it has to be about a much larger, broader conversation than just business.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Because we're all human at the end of the
I
day.
love how you said human connections. Like I wrote that down. I think that somehow I'm going to tie that in because it's so true. It's so important,
Yeah.
you know.
Awesome.
But thank you for your time.
Yeah.
You're
Thank you. This is
amazing.
wonderful.
Yeah, and this was so fun. I knew it was going to be like it is so fun. I think you're
Yep.
fantastic.
Agreed.
All right, great. Have an
Thanks,
awesome
Bridget.
day. Talk
You
to
too.
soon.
Bye.